Hey, what's up, team? I haven't done one of these in a while, so I figured I would go ahead and do one for you. Watch list breakdown or watch list results breakdown. Basically, I'm going to talk about the different intraday entries that you could have taken on the watch list and why certain alerts and plays were called when they were. So Facebook today was our first trade. It was a long over 241. We don't really need to talk about why this stock had potential. You can see the resistance there on the daily chart. 3 times it's hit this 241 area, and this morning it gapped up, right? And so when we're looking for a breakout play like this, you want to just take it long right over the pre-market high. So 241 was your level. Now, because this opened up and went immediately red, it doesn't mean that that's a short. This is just profit takers on the first 5-minute candle exiting the position from the gap up. And so the first 5 minutes, that's why I say don't base your trades off the first 5 minutes, because you have so many different variables going into that time frame, right? Traders are exiting positions, traders are entering positions, the market's choosing a direction for the day. So avoiding trading in the first 5 minutes and understanding that our pre-market support was right here, right around 240, this 240 area, and there's a bit of a gap right here. This should hold as a support if the stock is going to go up. Otherwise, you know what happens when a stock breaks down into a gap area, right? It likes to try to fill the gap. So had it continued down, we would have been looking for this to come down to probably yesterday's closing price to fill the gap, and then potentially bounce off of that point to take it long. That is why the short trigger was 239.50, right? So 239.50 is this mark, and that is yesterday's closing price, all by design, right? Because at that point it would have been a green to red move, and we would have had some confirmation there to short. This was alerted in chat right here at 6:36. I have eyes on Facebook at the trigger, over pre-market high, long idea with 240 being the stop. So this was our stop right here at 240, because if it rejected off of the pre-market high, then and it came down, we didn't want to give this a chance to get into the gap and start to come back on us. So 240 was the stop. I'll go to the 1-minute chart. This was alerted at 6:36, which was right on this candle here. Now, usually I'll preach to wait for a pullback. With this setup, though, because the way that this was set up on the daily chart, you don't need to really wait for a pullback as it's moving up on that type of move, if that makes sense. Because, well, first of all, this green candle's huge. And yeah, we don't want to chase the play, but it's been consolidating under this 241 level for almost a month, almost an entire month right here. So a break over that point, it's like it's more than likely to go. I didn't mind assuming the risk on that play, and so when it pushed up, that's when I was alerting this. 20%, 40%, sold 2/3 of the position for 50%, and then I said, we can look for a pullback entry for it to hold 241.50. That would be ideal. We didn't get that. We didn't get that pullback entry until quite a while afterwards. So right here at 241.42 is where it pulled back. Right. So this is when I mentioned. I think I said, yeah. So at 7:07, I just took Facebook long off that dip to 241, with 241 being the stop. That was 7:07. So right there. As soon as this came down and bounced here, that to me is worth the trade. This is the first time it's broken over this 241 level in a month. It makes sense that if it's a true move up, it's going to hold that area as a support, or at least pull back and test it as a support and then hold it as a support. So this was giving us that low risk play, right, with 240 being the stop, 240 being the stop, and then the high reward back up to the top side. So it pushed back up, and we sold this at 713. That's 40% off the dip entry. Sold it right at high of day. It just makes sense because, you know, after a sell-off like this and then a bounce, all of these are green candles. All of this is just green all the way up. Does it really have the strength to continue to print green candles and break a high of day and sustain the move? No, not really, right? If it did, it should have looked something like this, where it pushed up, pulled back, pushed up, made a new high, pulled back, pushed up, and then maybe broke out. But we never got a pullback after our dip entry. So, you know, you want to take profits into that strength. And that was it. That's all that I traded on Facebook. It was forming this ascending triangle pattern at one point right here. And it didn't break out. It actually broke down. I think ticker SPY was coming down at this point. So, you know, it tried one more time here, ultimately failed. But look where it pulled back to. This could have been a third entry for you. Right back to this mark, right back to this 241.50 area. It's been previously held as a support. Despite whatever the market was doing, this was pretty much still holding up. Third entry right here, and that actually broke the high of day and ran quite a bit there to the top side. So yeah, entry one being on this candle here. If you miss the move, that's fine. You can wait for the pullback. It just takes a little longer, right? Patience in the pocket. Here's your pullback entry for entry 2, and then a third pullback entry, same level of support every single time for entry 3. And you know, even if you took this play here and ran it up to this point, that's probably 40 or 50% on that play. And yeah, that's it. So now we're looking at it kind of like flagging and consolidating up here for a new high of day. This is potentially another entry when it breaks this point. Because it's midday, I'm not super interested in taking the play. You know, I'd rather wait for power hour and kind of see where it's at. Ideally, I would like to see it reject and pull back to this level, understanding this is old resistance, right? This should be new support. So a pullback to this point, test it as support, maybe even come down as far as VWAP. That's another entry right there with a low risk to the bottom side and then potential for profit up here to the top side. AMD was another play that was alerted in chat. I didn't really do too much alerting on this, but I saw other members taking the alerts, or making the alerts rather. So it was a short below 54.70, and that was because 54.70 is yesterday's closing price. It had gapped up. This now becomes a red to green move. Let me get to the 5-minute chart time frame. This now becomes a green to red move, where it opens up higher than the closing price, falls below the closing price, and closes down here. So 54.70 being your short entry. As soon as it closed below, you know, you could have looked to take the short there. When this pulled back on this candle here, tested it as a resistance and then fell, or you could have taken it on this bear flag right here, and it's not a very strong bear flag. It didn't consolidate for too long, but it did pull back a few times here. Well, you can't really see it on the 1-minute chart time frame. Yeah, so it did pull back a few times there. So something like this, right? That would have been your bear flag entry off of this previous resistance point at or around 54.60, 54.70, the trigger. That would have been second entry 2 for the short. Now, this is where this ticker gets interesting because, yeah, I didn't put it in the alert room, but it was called in chat as a bounce play off of 53.80. This is exactly what it did yesterday, almost to the T. Sold off in the morning, did this big consolidation phase right at 53.80, which using the 5-day 5-minute chart time frame has been a support 4 out of the last 5 trading days. Let me just draw a line all the way across so you can see here, 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 and here. So when it pulled back to this point, that's giving you another entry there for a long, right? A long idea off of this point because it's such a strong support level. If you go to the daily chart, look, you can clearly see that's just a straight line all the way across. This 50 EMA has been validated as support for quite some time. But understanding that a stock trades in a range, when a stock's building a range like this, you can play the bottom side of the range as an entry point, right? Placing your stop just below that point. So a long entry off 53.80 would have been perfect. Maybe something like on this candle right here, when you saw the hammer candle forming at the bottom, that is telling you that the price came down to this point, but then the buyers bought it up past the opening point of that candle. And so now you have this reversal candlestick formed at the bottom of a downtrend. And there's your move back up to the top side. 54.70 was our trigger level. So it went back from red to green over yesterday's closing price, consolidated here for quite some time, and then you got this another candlestick push up. I don't know that I would have taken it long off of this point, but it is possible that you could have. I just feel that if unless you were scalping this move, you could have taken an entry there and then scalped it to this point, and then another entry here and scalped it up to that point. But the two entries for me was a short right here on the bear flag reject of the short trigger, and then again a long entry off of the bottom side of the range support on this reversal candlestick formed for the top side move up. Let's talk about one that didn't work out, actually. Lulu. This was alerted over 310. And I'll show you why we liked it. So I still actually like this play. It just couldn't get there today. But it's pulled back. It made this massive run up, right? And then pulled back to this 21 EMA. Kind of bounced there, pushed up, bounced again, making another high or a higher low. And over 310, I saw the potential for this to run to about 313, 314, right? The bottom side of this consolidation and then this resistance right here. And then past that, even up as far as 320. I'm going to reset alerts at 310 just to make sure that we get that alert when this does decide to go. But using the 5-minute chart time frame, this was something that we alerted. Let me see if I put it in the alert room. Yeah, so from the side chart watch list, long idea over 310. We just never got a candle. We never got that confirmation close over 310. If you entered early, that's all right. You know, some people like to enter early and you get more profits when you enter early rather than kind of waiting or chasing the move up and then waiting for the pullback. You just don't have that extra confirmation. So as soon as this rejected, on this rejection candle right here, cut the position, right? That was a $2 drop. Don't wait for this to continue to come down. So based off of the way that we preach to trade, you should wait on that 5-minute candle to close. That doesn't apply for Facebook here. And the reason being is because this is a very different setup than what Lulu was. Lulu was a setup that is not breaking out on all-time highs. 310 is not a resistance. It's not a major resistance point that's been hit, 5, 6, 7 times. On Facebook, this is an all-time high break, and it's a resistance point that's been hit, 4 times. Well, 5 times really in the past. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they're very different setups. The experienced trader, I feel like, would know when to enter early as opposed to when to wait for confirmation. And so I'm trying to teach you that these setups, when I teach, the method I teach, waiting on that 5-minute candle to close, it's very effective for newer traders. On Facebook, it still would have been effective. Waiting on that 5-minute candle to close, wait for the pullback, get the move up. For Lulu, you wouldn't have taken a loss. The experienced trader knows kind of when something is going to go and when it's not, and when the setup looks like it's going to break out and when it's not. Lulu wasn't giving us a breakout setup. It was giving us a setup to make profits on, but not necessarily a breakout setup. So sorry to you guys that took an L on that play, but wait for that confirmation. This is a resistance point. It was clearly a resistance point here, even on the 5-minute chart time frame. It just didn't go, right? So cut the position early and move on to the next trade. The last one that I want to talk about is Spotify. SPOT. All right, so this was alerted in chat 7:01. Okay, it was forming a bull pennant. Set alerts for spot over 247. So I'll draw this bull pennant out for you. I'm on the 5-minute chart time frame. And this is what you have. An alert set at 247. The high of these wicks, where it was basically being rejected off of, was right at 247. That is simply why it was the long trigger. Once we saw this kind of shaping up, when it broke down from this bull pennant, right? Just because a formation is bullish or has bull in front of it doesn't mean that it's got to break out to the top side. This is a fake out move right here. It pulled back and broke down, but this volume is really low. Well, I wouldn't say really low, but the volume there is not as high as it was here. And so in my eyes, like, this is still a fake out candle. Now, if it broke below where the pre-market support was and where this candle closed at, so maybe if it broke below like 242 on a second candle, then we could probably look to short this, but it never did. Even the next candle pushing it back up was on lower volume. It wasn't until we got the break over 247 right here that you get your move. So you could have taken an entry here and just kind of held through this and caught the move up top side, or wait for that pullback. Here's your confirmation, right? It should pull back and test it as a support. It doesn't always do that, but that is one of the most effective ways to trade the watch list if you are a beginner trader and not all that experience. Watch the plays happen and then wait for the pullback. You want to get the best entry possible. So this is about as close as you're going to get to 247. This is 247.62. There's your pullback. Try to enter on the red candle, and the rest is history. It just ran straight up. But the main thing I wanted to point out on this was the volume. On this breakdown, it's not a very big volume candle. It's still, you know, if you were to draw like a trend line across the tops of these volume candles, it would kind of look like this. Right, so where you have increasing volume here, but it's not super significant. It's still lower than the consolidation volume, right? And then when you get that breakout, that's when you get the major volume right there. All right, guys, I hope this video has helped you out some. Oh, let's talk about one more. NKLA. Yeah, so this one is just... It's a void. It was a void all the way around. We were looking for the move over the pre-market high over 71 right here, and it pushed up, rejected, and did a lot of consolidation. But look, when the volume came in right here, that's when you got your big pump up. That could have been an entry play somewhere around that point. You don't always have to wait for the trigger to go off. When you have volume pop up like this, you can go ahead and try to take the play. That's what we did with Facebook yesterday. Yeah, so you see this volume spike right here. We waited, this was closer to end of day. We waited for a pullback entry off of the volume spike. It just never made a new high of day, so we wound up cutting the position. But, you know, we didn't wait for this to break over 239.80 or 239.50, that intraday support. We just saw the volume come in and tried to catch the bounce. And, you know, sometimes it works out, sometimes there's a follow through, and sometimes it doesn't. You just have to be ready to take the trade and put on that risk, right? That's conviction, trusting your analysis. If we knew what was going to happen in the market, everybody'd be millionaires or billionaires. We don't know. The only thing that you can do is just take the best entry possible and have as much confirmation on the trade as possible. Volume is one of those things that will confirm moves for you. So yeah, this was just kind of consolidating, doing nothing really until that volume came in and pushed it up. So this could have been an entry for you somewhere around this point for that top side move right there. That's it, guys. That's all that I have for the watch list review today. I hope this video has helped you out some. If it has, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you all in chat. Thanks.